the Major League Baseball draft, I know you had a number of players selected. To my knowledge, only one has signed with the Major League team. Have you had any others that have gone in that direction?
Well, I'm going to kind of repeat you. To my knowledge, we've only had one sign. And, things move fast. But, no, I think we're good right now. Tyler Smith, the right-handed pitcher out of UC Sumter, a JC transfer who's a key guy to this recruiting class. We're battling the Texas Rangers on him, and I'm sure that's going to be one that goes down to the wire on July 13th, and that's what happens when you recruit good baseball players that Major League Baseball is attracted to them too, and he's one guy that we're going to sweat out. I think the rest of the guys are good. Vincent Jackson and A.J. Simcox and Vance Vizcaino, they're pretty much intact that they're coming to school, and I don't want to assume anything. We'll continue to do our part in that. But I think Tyler's the one that we're still worrying about right now.
Do you know Tyler's asking price?
Well, I don't know if he knows it, to be honest with you. We've talked, and I had a great conversation with his parents the other night. And, again, you kind of got to take yourself out of being the coach and them being the parents of the player. And I try to help advise them on what could be the best for him. And Tyler's a young man that Jimmy he was a high school football player. He was a wide receiver, a very good athlete. Didn't become a full-time baseball player until 2 years ago. And his stock has really risen each and every year. And I don't think a year ago people would even imagine that he'd be where he's at now. Coach Mosiello found him. He had one of his former coaches that he used to coach with as his JC coach, and he told him to come see him. And he's just continued to get better each and every day. So my thing to him, Jimmy, I want to give you an answer. I don't know what his asking price is, but what I'm telling him is his asking price isn't high enough because he continues to get better. And who's to say if he's in a rotation in the SEC, who's to say that his asking price shouldn't be well over $500,000 next year?
Well, see, I was wondering if because of what might be that untapped potential, the fact that he's only played a couple of years, does it concern you that the Rangers may offer him more than his slotted amount, or are they in position to do that?
Well, that's what we're trying. That's what we're keeping our fingers crossed for, because it all depends on what they do in the top rounds. And unfortunately for us, the Rangers took a lot of senior signs in rounds 6 to 10, which are guys that they're probably throwing a couple thousand or maybe 1,000 to just to get the opportunity. And so, but they do have a high-profile guy they took early on, which is going to take some money. So my hope is they have to give that guy a lot of money, and there's not money left. For a perfect example, the Mookie Betts situation last year, who was a player that we lost at the wire, it was because the Boston Red Sox couldn't sign 2 higher picks, and they were able to pile that money into his, and his money went from $350 to $750 in a matter of a half an hour. So that was the old system. The new system, they're not going to be able to jump that much, but they're still, if they save some money up top, they'll be able to give him some extra.
Dave, how much does it help you? I believe they've moved that in this new system. They moved that date up to where they had to declare. They used to wait till the absolute last minute, if I'm not mistaken. How much does that help to move it into July?
Well, it kind of helps because it's still a month away from school. But then, to be honest with you, with as good as Tyler is, and we think he can be, we're not going to be able to go find a pitcher of his caliber on July 13th either. We might be able to find a couple different guys that can maybe fill the roles of what he was going to come in and do. But we're still, like the Adam Giacalone, the young man who just signed with Milwaukee, we're still working the phones trying to find guys to fill that role in that scholarship. And I think I said this last week, what we need to be is intelligent, though. We don't want to just throw money out there. We need to be able to get it to someone that's going to make an impact on our program and not someone that we're tying up into scholarship money and it will hurt us down the line when we go into the next recruiting phase, which we're doing right now.
Are you finding that kids today have a better understanding of this process and the balance between college and the big leagues with the draft than they were years ago, or has that not changed?
Well, I think I have an easy answer to that, Vince. I think the kids have figured out this system. I think the kids know how to work the college system. They know how to make the college coaches feel good and fuzzy and warm, and that they're coming to school, but then they also know how to work the professional side of it to allow them to know that they're willing and wanting to go play professional baseball. And that's the only thing that's a little disheartening is I just wish that everyone was honest up front. And if a young man told me that he would sign for $100,000, which to some people that might be a lot of money, and to some cases, I would welcome that if a family needs money that bad. But in the long run, it's really not life-changing money. And if a young man told me if I'm drafted, I'll sign for $100,000, we probably wouldn't roll the dice to recruit him, because chances are he's going to get that money if he gets drafted. And to me, I think you go when you're ready, maturity-wise, to go play professional baseball. And I think a lot of these kids don't realize it's kind of funny. I was up in Dayton, Ohio last night, going to a showcase today, and last night my son and I went and watched the Dayton Dragons play the Bowling Green minor league team. And I saw a young man that I had recruited at Fullerton 3 years ago that had signed. Well, he's still an A-ball. And this would have been his junior year in college, and he would have had 3 years under his belt of education. And the way he was progressing would have probably left Fullerton maybe a top 5 rounder. Well, 3 years later, he's still in single A ball. So a lot of kids don't look at it that way. They sign that contract, and their belief is they're pitching in the big leagues, and the reality is there's a long ways to go for that.
Dave, one of the more frustrating things and angering things for me, since I love college baseball, is how undervalued in terms of scholarship numbers that college baseball is, and how you guys have to work the numbers and the percentages and scholarships and divvy them out. What is your philosophy in spreading out the partial scholarships you guys have to give out in baseball?
Well, first you got to find student athletes that are going to fit your system. You got to find student athletes that have high character. You got to find student athletes that are good baseball players. But the other thing is you got to find student athletes that aren't looking for the big dollars to come to your school. I think part of our philosophy as a coaching staff is that we're going to find the kids that want to come to the school, for instance, the University of Tennessee, and play baseball for this university and this coaching staff and their teammates. And it isn't about the dollar figure. No one gets a full scholarship. And that's, you hear a lot of that when you're out on the road. Oh, Johnny got a full scholarship. That's not true. There's no programs that are given full scholarships. They can't afford to do that with 11.7. So you got to find the families that are willing to sacrifice a little bit of money to get their kids educated and to get their kids a great experience of playing in the SEC. And the kids that come back and say, Coach, I need some more money. This school's offering me this, and you're only offering me this. Well, I'm going to be the first to say, then you probably should take that other offer, because I'm not going to buy you. What we think we're giving you is something that you should be very excited about. Speaking
of the SEC, 3 SEC teams make it in the College World Series. Any team surprise you that made it? Any team surprise you that didn't make it?
No, I would say if I could look into a crystal ball halfway through the year, I would have said these are the 3 teams I would have said. When we went into that South Carolina series in Columbia this year, I would have probably not guessed South Carolina. They were struggling at the time, but after we beat them on that Friday night 2-1, I think they went on a string of 13 or 14 straight SEC victories, and that's what a championship caliber program does. And my coaching staff and I were just talking about that the other day. They have figured out how to win and win on a consistent basis, and I tip my hat to Coach Tanner and his coaching staff. Florida is a very talented team. We saw that all year long. I think the whole country saw that. When we played Florida, Coach O'Sullivan kind of made a comment to me that he didn't care if they were a national 8 seed. They didn't care if they played at home. They just kind of wanted to get it going. I mean, it was a little bit of a tough year for them. When you have so many high draft picks on your team, there's a lot of pull from the advisors and the draft and pro scouts, and he just was he wanted to get the focus to the team when they got to the playoffs, and they're doing exactly what he said. Arkansas had a rough year in the SEC, but I thought Arkansas was one of the most talented teams we played all year long. They had great athletes, big physical athletes. They had good pitching, which showed over the last 2 days in Baylor. And so I'm not surprised by any of the 3 teams. I'd say the one team that I'm most surprised is how South Carolina turned it around where they were at one point of the season, because they were 1-5, I think, going into our series against them, and they turned it around since. But that's I've been at programs like that when I was at Cal State Fullerton, and the expectations of your players, they know what it's like at the end of the year, and that's what we're hoping to get into this program, that we expect to win. And I think the South Carolina players expect to win and expect to be there.